Many of you I've met, as many of you I have not. Like he said, my name's Michael Clapper. I was the one over in the Philippines for 6 months. I was at a detention center. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Before I went into that detention center, I had said to myself, you know, I'm going to read the Bible through if I can. And fortunately, I was at the place I could read it through within 2 months. And I was amazed myself, of course. But anyway, I really appreciated it. I wanted to make a few changes in my life, but I wasn't sure exactly how I was going to make those changes with being away from home for almost 2 years. But why I was in that detention center was 2 different reasons. Here I was one day at my house. It was on a Monday, July 6th, almost a year ago to this day. And I looked outside and I saw 6 or 8 people. I saw cameras and everything. I thought, wow, what's all this about? So they came to my door and they asked me who I was, and I admitted who I was and told them. And they said, you know, you're an alien in this country. And I said, well, I had sent all my paperwork in. The city of Manila was like here, many of the cities were shut down, locked down. You couldn't get into the city at all. So I sent all my stuff ahead of time by mail. And I had all the receipts that they had received it, but I haven't received my new passport that I was to get. And I explained this, but that doesn't matter. You got to remember when you're in different countries, such as the Philippines, there's different laws and regulations. If you're accused of something, you're guilty until you prove you are innocent. And that means if they take you to jail, you go to jail. So that's where I went. I went in one jail, and I was there 2 days, and then I was transferred to another jail. It was 3 days, and in this one jail, it was for traffickers and different people, and I met different people. Even there were 10 women in one section, and in this one section, they had sold their children so they would have money or mine. So they were arrested. And there were also men in there, which is the section I was in, and so forth. So I waited, and then I was transferred to another place. And I had a friend over line tell me, he said, I hope you don't go to this place. I read about this online. And I said, well, I think that's where I'm headed. So I did end up in this detention center. But first I was put in quarantine for 14 days, but it ended up being 16 or 17 days total. And when I was in the quarantine, I got a call from the U.S. Embassy. And I thought to myself, what's this all about? And they said, we're going to issue your passport. Here I am in jail, and they're going to send me my passport. I said, oh, that's great. So my fiancée, she was 4 hours away. I couldn't get out of there. So she went down and got it for me. And still, I was still held within that detention center. So when I was in quarantine, you ate what they gave you. Of course, you look at it, you had this small door and you looked out, you saw rats running everywhere. You saw a few chickens. No animals bothered each other. I think they were all scared of each other because the rats were like this big, running outside. And so I was in there about 16 days quarantine, and I was taken then, we use the expression, the big house. And but when I was in that quarantine, I said, God, you know, so I had myself to talk to him. I said, excuse me if I get a little emotional. I don't know how I'm going to get out of here or when, but I said, I know I'm innocent. So I relied on that. So I was in there, 16 days. I decided, well, I'm not doing anything, nobody around, so I read the Bible from Matthew to Revelation a couple times again, because I wanted to have the mind of Christ under such circumstances, or the apostles, or different ones that maybe went through something much similar, which I knew they did, but for different reasons. So I read that, and then it finally came that I made it in the big house, and I called it, and the place held 140 people, supposed to. They had 400 people jammed in there, sleeping on floors. on hallways, and I found out it was 4 rats, cockroaches everywhere. And there was a sore running down the side of the, the place I was at. So it didn't look too good. It didn't look too promising. So the first 14 days I was in there, they said, well, you'll get a bed maybe in a couple of weeks. No. I said, what do you sleep on? They said, well, here's these plastic chairs. So I slept on those for 14 days. And at night, you could see the rats running underneath you. And of course, the cockroaches were everywhere. And many of the people that were in there slept like on those skids, if you know what I mean. Together they had something laid over them, not much. So that was basically the first 3 months, and 2 individuals in there that I knew, out of all those people, believed in God. At least they expressed it. And through that period of time, we met at different times, and we would read the Bible, so to speak. And it was funny, we would conduct sermons and pray to each other, and that was our strength. And so that helped a lot, to keep your faith going, because you met every kind of person from any country that you could think of, And most people were very, very negative. So it took a lot of yourself to not, get in that attitude that they showed, that they expressed. So it wasn't an easy thing, but we kind of, the ones, that I found, I don't know how I found, of course I said it was God, He brought those to us out of 400 people, and they also had you divided if you were Americans, if you were Muslims, if you were different countries, China, Korea, and different sections of all these people. So it was not an easy thing. And so that's how it went on for about 3 months. Then I knew the atmosphere wasn't good for you. The average temperature was 85 to 95 all the time. Finally, I got a bed after a while. 5 people were shipped out to be put in jails, what I understood, and they were put in these jails. And the one detainee there, he says, go get that bed quick. And I said, okay. And of course your mattress is still any of this thick. And that's what you laid on. And you had a fan, but it was so hot, it blew warm air. So it didn't do you much good. So each day you would wake up, and you'd be all sweaty and like this. That's how you slept. So it wasn't too good for you health-wise. And of course, when I went in, I had a heart problem, and I'm diabetic. So they said, oh yeah, we'll take care of you. But they don't. They're very little medical. It was run by the Bureau of Immigration of the Philippines, and everybody would tell me, you must forget about your health, because you're not going to get any medical things unless you get somebody to bring it in from the outside. So that was kind of a thing to get accomplished, to get somebody to bring in something for you. Fortunately, I'm old enough, I'm on Social Security, I was smart enough to give my fiance my bank card, and I found out that through this one guy in there, that you could get some money brought in, that you could get better food if you paid for it. So fortunately, I was able to do that, but of course, everybody gets a percentage of what you have. Everybody has to make money. Even the guards were so crooked, and the warden, and so forth. But I went through this, and I could tell, in a way, my health was getting worse at that time. And as it got worse, I knew that the medical wasn't there. But these 2 guys that were in charge said, you better get him to the hospital or he's not going to make it. And so my leg was about this swell, twice the size, and I had 3 angines attack my heart. So finally they convinced the warden. The warden was a lady. She wanted to put me down in isolation, just down in isolation instead of getting medical help as provided. It was not provided. So they took me to this hospital, and it was during a typhoon, and it was on the outside, and everything was in plastic, believe it or not. So I'd see the roof once in a while go like this. And I thought, well, if I'm going to go here, I might as well go. But I was in there 60 days, and that's when many different people come into my life. Brad, Marlene, certain family members, my sister, and many of them communicated with those that were in charge at the embassy. So I was in the hospital 16 days, and finally my leg went down a lot. They figured, well, he's good enough sitting back in the detention center, which was okay, I guess. And then I was still sick there. So the embassy called me up, the U.S. embassy, I'm not saying Philippines. They called me up and said, we're going to get you out of there. So that was like a glorious day. Oh, great. And I thought I'd be out of there in a week. And Brad was working with me for, I count that as angels on earth. And my sister and some others trying to do what they could. You got to remember, this was all under Philippine control. And the U.S. had very little that they could influence. But Brad's talking to the U.S. Embassy. My sister knew somebody in the State Department. They're trying to do this and that. So, here I got the word I'm going to leave. So I told Brad, he said, I'll schedule the flight and get everything arranged. So he did. But believe it or not, 2 days before, they said, well, he's still being investigated from the Philippine Justice Department. So Brad's afraid, I think, in his heart to get a hold of me because he thought I would really be discouraged. I said, hey, Brad, don't worry about it. It's going to work out. And so 2 days later, we got the word that I had been cleared for a couple of months. But they had misplaced the information. So here I was in there for all this time, and then I thought, well, that's the way it is. Something's going to work out here. But you got to remember something. When it's just you and God and your faith, you got choices you got to make. You can have the attitude like the other people, or you can have the attitude, hey, God's going to work this out. He's going to do it somehow, and we'll find out how it's going to be. And that's, I think, the attitude we kept in people on the outside. I always heard, we're going to get you out of there soon. We're going to get you out of there. And I thought, yeah, I'll get out of here soon enough. If you're innocent, fine. I'm not saying there weren't people in there guilty, but there were a lot of people I met in there that were innocent. But they make money off of you. You got to remember. And everybody's crooked. You don't get nothing for free. You want your money. And that's the way it is. I've seen people in there pay lawyers off thousands of dollars that had the money, and they were no better than you. But they were in connection with the government, but they wanted your money. So anyway, so that flight was canceled that week, and we scheduled for the next week. And that was good. That was great. So we were all happy about that. And the next week came, and the day I was supposed to leave, to the hour I was supposed to leave, they could not find the paperwork. So you can imagine. But one of the detainees that they had in charge certainly said, I'm going back to the office. This isn't the guards or the warden. He went back to the office and found my release papers. Can you imagine that? But anyway, so Brad and Grace, I come back, and I had to come back in a wheelchair. 3 months I couldn't walk right. For those obvious reasons. And so I went from Manila, to Japan, to O'Hara, to Baltimore, and finally I arrived in Baltimore, and they're hauling me in a wheelchair around because I can't walk, so some areas very good anyway. And I saw Brad way down coming. And my brother was with him, and he was in the car. I said, oh, there's Brad. And all of a sudden it was like, wow, I knew I was free then. I knew I was on American soil, and But for a couple of months, I got back here in December of 2020, and I had to schedule appointments for my heart. And I had surgery about April, and I took 2 months, therapy. And this was the other week I just finished up. And the lady came and said, "Here's an award for you. You were the best person in recovery." She said, "You're improved more than anybody in recovery." I told you I always get emotional. I think my oldest daughter and I are just alike. But anyway, then my final part of my testimony is that the heart feels great. I walk good. I heard something amazing. Last Thursday I went, and 2 months before that I had like 5 or 6 tests. And they said my legs, the flow of blood wasn't good. They have to maybe run stents here and there because of damage done or different things. So when I was in the hospital last Thursday, I was in the room, and the doctor was there. They scope your legs and they go into your body a certain way. And he looked at me, and he said, "Wow." He said, "There's nothing wrong." Amen. He said, "Is that your worst leg?" And I said, "Yeah, this one right here." He says, "Perfect. The flow is perfect." And the other one, it was supposed to be very bad too. He said, "Both your legs are perfect." He said, "I don't have to do nothing." And I said, "Wow." So, my advice, if you ever have to go through tough things, which you all do, maybe not that rough. Maybe you have someone sick in the family, you have marriage problems, or it could be anything. We have tests all the time, trials we face. Stick close to God. Stay strong in your meetings, your prayers. And I thank everybody that prayed for me because it works. Prayers is a close thing we have. And I thank you for letting me share my testimony.